It is the year 1372. The village of Wexham lies in a quiet corner of the English countryside, surrounded by low, rolling hills and bordered by patches of forest and marsh. It is home to about 150 souls. He does not own the cottage in which he lives, nor the fields he works. But he and his family have held this small plot for 3 generations. His father and his father before him both lived and died in Wexham. Life here is slow, steady, predictable. The sun has not yet risen, but the pale glow of early morning light is beginning to filter through the mist. His field lies to the east, a narrow rectangle of barley bordered by other peasants' plots. The barley is coming in well this year, though the weeds are creeping in again. He begins to hoe. A cock crows in the distance. The soft bleating of sheep can be heard from the far meadow. By mid-morning, the sun is visible, casting long beams through the lingering mist. The village bell rings from the small stone church. Both are busy. They speak only briefly, murmuring about the weather, which has been dry, good for threshing, less good for the herbs. Margaret grows behind the house. It is terse, the 3rd hour. Brother Matthew rings the bell each day, marking the rhythm of their lives. Alice dozes off first, her head resting on her father's lap. Somewhere far off, a fox yips. Smudged, the cat curls beside the fire. Margaret has prepared a small meal: rye bread, a bit of cheese, and weak ale. The bread is coarse and uneven, but satisfying. The cheese smells slightly sour. Robert brings in a few onions from the garden. He listens to the wind, the crackling fire, the slow breathing of his family. He closes his eyes. Alice hums while helping her mother sort herbs: thyme, sage, and mugwort. There is dew on the grass, and the ground is damp beneath the worn leather soles of John's boots. The steward, a man named Walter, oversees the labor. Today's task is repairing the mill stream's banks. The water mill is vital to the village, grinding their grain into flour. John works with 2 other men, laying stones and packing mud. Sometimes, when they are lucky, they have honey or dried berries to stir in. Walter dismisses them with a grunt. John walks home slowly, his feet heavy, his back tight. Not today. Still, it fills the belly and warms the bones. They eat without speaking, savoring the quiet. Margaret is spinning wool, her spindle turning in a steady rhythm. The fire crackles softly. Supper is pottage, a simple stew of peas, onions, and bits of barley. They eat together, quietly, listening to the wind rustling the thatch. John is a villain, a tenant bound to the land. The cottage is small, its walls made from wattle and daub, the roof thatched with straw. Inside, the hearth is cold, but still smells faintly of last night's smoke. A thin fog clings to the trees, and the path to the fields is wet and soft. A rough wool tunic, a pair of hose, and a leather belt. He steps outside, stretching. The morning is still. The sky is the color of milk. His wife, Margaret, stirs on the straw mattress beside him. Their two children, Robert and Alice, are curled together like kittens on a smaller pallet near the wall. The cat, an old gray Tom named Smudge, watches John with sleepy eyes. John dresses slowly. First, he checks on the animals. The chickens are quiet today. He opens the wooden coop and gathers 6 eggs, still warm. The pig, Nell, is asleep in her pen. She will wake later. The family has no cow, but they sometimes buy milk from the Reeves' wife. Margaret is already up and boiling water for breakfast. The porridge is thick, made with oats and a pinch of salt. After breakfast, John takes his tools: a wooden hoe, a sickle, and a small hand-rake, and walks to his strip of land in the open field system. His arms are sore, but the pain is familiar. He works steadily, stopping only to sip water from a clay jug. The sky turns gold, then soft pink. John wipes his brow. John sees Thomas in the neighboring field. They exchange a nod. By noon, John heads back home. In the afternoon, John is called to work on the Lord's demesne. By late afternoon, the sun begins to sink. At home, the children are playing with sticks near the hearth. Afterward, Margaret recites a prayer, and John mends a boot. The night is dark now. Outside, the stars appear one by one. An owl hoots. John lies down. The bed is rough but warm. Tomorrow will be the same, and that is just fine. The night deepens, and the village of Wexham lies quiet beneath a sky scattered with stars. The thick thatch of John's cottage muffles the faint creaks of the settling wood and the occasional sigh of the wind weaving through the oaks beyond the fields. Inside, the family sleeps, breaths slow and even, wrapped in woolen blankets that hold the chill of the early summer night. The muscles, stiff from yesterday's labor on the millstream, remind him of the unending demands of the land and the Lord's will. He steps outside into the morning chill, the earth cool beneath his feet. The mist hangs low, softening the shapes of trees and hedgerows, cloaking the village in quiet mystery. Outside, the first faint gray light slips beneath the shutters. She stirs as he approaches, snuffling softly, eager for her morning feed. John pauses briefly at the edge of the village green, where a group of boys practice with wooden swords and shields. pretending to be knights defending the kingdom. Their laughter carries in the morning air, bright and wild against the otherwise muted sounds of labor and animal calls. The path is slick with dew and scattered with fallen leaves from the oaks that line the main lane. He remembers being that age. Margaret is already stirring the hearth fire, tending to a pot of thin broth. The children are awake, rubbing sleep from their eyes. Robert pulls at his mother's skirts, asking for a piece of bread. Alice sits quietly by the fire, her fingers twisting strands of her own hair nervously, dreaming of swords and adventure. But the reality of life had set in long ago, now sweetened slightly with a handful of dried berries Margaret found at market. The taste is sharp but welcome, a small comfort in their hard lives. Along the way, he nods to neighbors rising early, some already tending to fires, others carrying buckets and baskets toward their fields or gardens, savoring the warmth that spreads through his chest, knowing the day ahead will be long. The village is slow to wake, but there is a shared understanding. The land demands attention before the heat of the day. John scoops up a handful of corn and scatter it in her pen, watching as she snorts happily and roots about in the straw. He lies still for a moment, listening. The faintest sounds drift through the thin walls. The creak of a wooden cart on the dirt road. The soft murmur of a dog in the distance, and the steady breathing of Margaret beside him. But before dawn, the rhythm of village life begins anew. John wakes to a dull ache in his shoulders. Rising carefully, John dresses in his rough woolen tunic and pulls on his boots, worn soft by years of walking muddy fields and uneven paths. John's breath steams faintly in the cold air. He walks toward the small barn where Nell, the pig, sleeps. The well water is cold and clear, smelling faintly of earth and stone. He fills his jug and drinks deeply, savoring the freshness. Water is precious in the village, not always clean, never plentiful, and always to be used wisely. From the barn, John makes his way toward the village well. At the well, John lowers a wooden bucket tied to a rope. On the way back, John smiles, gack, at the cottage. Breakfast is simple, the same thick porridge from the day before. John eats slowly. After breakfast, John prepares for his work on the Lord's domain once more. The steward, Walter, awaits with a small group of men at the village edge. Today, the task is different. The village road that winds through Wexham has been damaged by recent rains. The clay and gravel washed into deep ruts. John wipes his forehead with the sleeve of his tunic and looks out over the village. The church tower stands tall against the sky, its stone worn by centuries of wind and rain. The villagers move like ants below, women tending gardens, children chasing one another between cottages, old men sitting on benches watching the day unfold. The path is treacherous for carts and horses, and if left unattended, Margaret has prepared a small supper. A pottage of peas. John mends his worn boots, carefully stitching the torn leather. Margaret spins wool, her fingers deft and steady. They speak little, comforted by the simple companionship after a long day. His thoughts drift toward the future, the harvest to come, the seasons to turn, the steady, unyielding passage of time in Wexham. Leaks, the distant hoot of an owl blends with the rustling of leaves and the soft sighs of the earth settling for sleep, and barley, thick and hearty. The children eagerly eat, their faces flushed with the warmth of the day. Robert talks about the boys at the village green, about the wooden swords and imagined battles. Alice listens, her eyes wide with wonder. Trade and travel will be hindered. John picks up a wooden shovel and a basket filled with gravel. The work is grueling, bending and shoveling in the hot sun. The air is thick with dust and the sharp scent of crushed stone. Sweat runs down his face and soaks through his tunic. Her hands rough but gentle. Of Robert and Alice growing stronger each day despite the hardships. He wonders what the future holds for them. Will Robert inherit the fields? Will Alice marry and start her own household? Or will the Lord demand more from them, pulling their lives into endless cycles of toil? Still, the men work in silence, their movements steady and practiced. The sun low in the sky and casting long shadows over the village. The scent of wood smoke drifts from the chimneys, mingling with the earthy aroma of tilled soil. During a brief break, John thinks of his own family, of Margaret. His thoughts are interrupted by Walter's sharp voice, ordering the men to move stones into place. There is no time for daydreams when the Lord's business calls. The road is patched as best as it can be. The men collapse onto the grass, tired but satisfied. Walter counts the work done, nods grimly, and dismisses them with a curt word. By late afternoon, John walks home slowly. At the cottage, after supper, John and Margaret sit by the fire. Outside, the night deepens once more. The stars are brighter now, and the moon casts a silver glow over the fields. John lies down again, the rough bed beneath him familiar and unchanging. And as sleep claims him, he knows that tomorrow will be much like today. Slow, steady, and full of quiet purpose.